went for a ride last night to check out the oil drain and the oil pressure, and when I got back, noticed I was a little low on coolant, and I started looking around, and this is what I noticed. This shortcut way of blocking off the coolant feed line to the stock turbo has come back to bite me in the butt. What you see here is that is not a reflection of that clamp there. That is actually where the rubber is dry rotting through, and right there, so you see this little coolant bubbling right there. So the plan is we're going to drain the coolant, and we're going to pull this piece off, and we're going to try to pull this little nipple here out, the little metal nipple, and tap it out and put a plug in it. Alright, on the driver's side of the radiator you have a little plug here, and this will get the coolant out of your radiator, and we're going to try to drain as much of that as we can so maybe we can avoid a mess later on. Okay, if you notice on this plug here, this is what we pulled out of that radiator down there, and if you notice there's a slot cut in it right there. Now, my best guess as to what you're supposed to do is back this out until that slot is seen just like that. Then open your radiator cap so that all the fluid flows in one direction and doesn't get all over your car and make a massive mess that you have to clean up. Alright, now with that one moved, there's a few more things that we need to remove. You can see that there's a hose here. There's another heater core hose at the bottom. And then we also up front we have a few connectors, this one here and this one here, and then we have 3 nuts. You can see that crack there, right there, see? That thing was just dry rotted all the way around. It was only a matter of time before I lost all my coolant. So we're going to try to fix that. After pulling out your old feed here, you find out that the hole is drilled out to a 3/8, and so that's too big to use an 1/8 inch NPT tap. So we're going to use a 1/4 inch NPT tap, and we're going to tap out this hole so that we can put a 1/4 inch NPT plug. I really wish we could have sunk the whole plug down in there, but due to the fact that that little guide is there, the tap couldn't go all the way through, so we couldn't continue to sink the threads down in there. So at this point, this is going to be the blocked off portion. We're going to clean it up, add some sealant to this plug, reinstall it, and then we're going to clean up our flanges and reinstall our thermostat housing so we can get the car back together. A lot of gaskets like the one for your water neck you can pick up at any auto parts store. They have them on hand, but the one that goes to your lower thermostat housing that bolts to the block, and this one I have not been able to find anywhere. If you ever plan on pulling this bottom thermostat housing, you're gonna have to at least order this gasket to make sure. I mean, unless you find it somewhere else, and if you do, please share in the comments below so that we'll all know about it. The torque spec for these nuts is 12 to 14 foot-pounds. Now, of course, we don't have any way of getting a torque wrench in there on these, so you just have to use your best guesstimate, but just know that it's 12 to 14 foot-pounds, and that's not a lot of torque. One quick thing to note is these thermostats come with a jiggle valve, and you just want to install it so that the weep hole or the bleeder valve here, jiggle valve, is facing the firewall. Now on a 2G it's installed vertically, so you want to make sure that this always faces up, but on a 1G it installs vertically as so we're going to stick it in so that the jiggle valve faces the firewall. The torque spec for these bolts on top are also 12 to 14 foot-pounds. Well, since my overflow tank was giving me a hard time as far as mounting right here and not having the hose kink again, what we're going to do is we're going to mount it facing another way. We'll mount it facing straight out, and we'll make a bracket here. Okay, so here we have the final bracket. You have one 10mm bolt right there that's held to the fuse box, and this is what holds the thick piece of metal in. Then this is the bracket that came with the overflow tank, and I welded the two nuts to the bottom of that piece of steel, and I bolted it with two bolts and two washers. And then that goes on to the overflow tank, and as you can see, it makes a decent mount. It'll point all my hoses in the right direction so that they're not kinked. So now I'm about to use one of the tools that I really enjoy using when I have to use it, and that is the spill-free funnel. Now this funnel will also aid tremendously in bleeding your coolant system, because you can always have coolant in the funnel and air can still bubble out, so no air is entering back into your system. So you can let your car run and bleed the system. On this type of car that doesn't have a bleeder screw, you can bleed the system very well with this type of funnel. Now take the radiator cap off and this will go a lot faster. And you don't want this happening.